Yo, so I was minding my own business. I'm on the internet. I think I was on Twitter. And I saw an old video in light of all the new allegations against Diddy. Old videos are resurfacing. So I saw an old video with him and Usher and Kevin Hart. And Diddy was saying that, him and Usher used to wake up and fight for the cereal. And then when Kevin Hart started laughing about him and Usher waking up together, Diddy was like, pause. I mean, is Diddy allowed to say pause? Intro.
You should come rolling my
Yo, what up? My name is Vladimir Riché from ChaseandRider.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about a brand named Collaro that specializes in custom tailored clothing. Let's go. There's a misconception out there that just because something is custom or made to measure, that is going to fit you better than something that's off the rack. A lot of guys think that, and I can see why they would think something like that, because you figure it's custom, it's based off my measurements, so it should fit better than something that I'm buying off the rack. And I'm here to say, man, that's not usually the case. More often than not, it doesn't. And part of it is because the companies who make custom clothing, they usually have a predetermined pattern. And then they're going to make adjustment to that pattern based off your measurements. So it's not really something that they're building from scratch, you know what I mean? And that's really what a lot of guys are not wrapping their minds around. And not only that, the custom garment is only going to be as good as the person who's taking your measurements. So you also have to base it off of that too, And to add a third layer to it, nowadays, a lot of companies are doing it remotely. So they're not even taking your measurements. It's really up to you to take your own measurements, whether you're taking your body measurements or whether you're going to measure a garment that you already have. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of factors that goes into custom clothing that a lot of us are not really thinking about. So with that said, I definitely want to find out some companies that are doing it right. So I'm going to make a series on that, different custom companies that guys should be using. If you follow my channel, a few years ago, I made a similar video about Spear and McKay Custom. And today I'm bringing you a brand by the name of Collaro. Collaro is a brand from Singapore. They were founded in 2019 and made their debut in 2020. They've been very successful and have shipped to 60 countries so far. 95% of the garments are made in Singapore and 5% are made elsewhere, because sometimes the finishes that they're looking for, they can't get it in Singapore, so they have to send it to a different country. So as I mentioned, they have shipped to 60 countries so far. So most of their business come from online. And the way that it works is you have to take your measurements remotely and send it to them. Although one thing that they started doing, they've been traveling. So they were just in New York this past October. Unfortunately, I couldn't see them in person, so I had to take measurements of one of my suits. We'll talk more on that later. But that is one thing that they started doing. Actually, I just received an email from them because they're trying to take a poll to see where they should go next. So don't be surprised if you see that Collaro is actually in your city. But they're a brand I've been following on Instagram for a while. A lot of guys whose style that I respect have been using them for a couple years. So I'm glad that I was finally able to work with them. Now, full disclosure, everything that you're about to hear is strictly my opinion. Although Collaro did send me the suit for free, but no money exchanged hands, so they didn't pay me for this review, but the suit was provided for free. And one thing that Collaro does differently than most remote suit makers is they give you the option to select a trial jacket and a trial trousers. Now you do have to pay extra for those, but the thought is you only really have to do that one time. And that was one of the reasons why I was really excited to work with them. As I was saying, when you're dealing with custom, it's usually not going to be easy, especially the first one. And then when you add the fact that you're taking your own measurements, that's even more room for errors to occur. So having some trial garments sent to me first really put my mind at ease. So without further ado, man, let's get into the process. The first step of the process is to go to their website and select a fabric. So all the top mills that you're familiar with, you'll find them on the Collaro website. When they reached out to me, the options were I could do a sport coat with a pair of trousers, or I could just do a full suit. So I went with the second option and went with a suit. The fabric that I originally selected was a tweed, but shortly after I placed the order, they told me that that fabric was discontinued, so I had to pick another fabric. At that point, I went with a flannel. About 2 weeks after I placed the order, I realized they added some new tweed to the site. I reached out and asked if it was too late to make a switch, and thankfully they were able to make it happen. So the suit that I ordered was a light brown tweed from Abraham Moon. They're a mill out of the UK and they're renowned for their tweed. So I was very happy with the way the fabric looked, and I knew that it would be a really nice suit. So after you select the fabric, you go to the Make tab and you present it with 3 options, which is unstructured, half canvas, or full canvas. Preferably, I would have preferred a full canvas. And like I said, I didn't pay for this. This was free. And the option that they gave me was a half canvas, which is cool. The next option is the style. That's where you get to select the kind of lapel. I went with a notched lapel 3-roll 2. We'll talk more about that later. Then you get to select the style of pockets that you like. And the next one is to deal with the lining. I went with a quarter lining. You can also do it unlined or you can do it fully lined. Now let's talk about the trousers. For the waistband, I went with the arrowhead side tabs, which is the first option on the website. For the pleats, I went with a double forward, which is usually my go-to when I'm doing custom trousers. For the cuffs, of course, I went with 2 inches or 5 cm. For the back, I went with double welted pockets. Once again, the first option. And as add-ons, I did the trowel trousers and I also did suspender buttons. Now, a lot of those things that I mentioned are extras. So for example, the jacket, if you were to do it online, it's $709. But if you want to do half canvas, it's $191 extra. So right here is exactly how much the suit would have cost if I was to pay for it myself. The total was $1,458, and that includes everything that we discussed, including the trowel jacket and trowel trousers. So if you're not going to go with the trowel part, let's say it's like your second suit or something, it should be about $200 less. And never mind the old brown flannel trousers, because like I was saying, I did end up changing the fabric to a tweed. Now, just to give you a bit of a timeline, I officially placed my order on their website on November 22nd, sent the pictures to them, I think the next day on November 23rd. They got back to me on November 25th, and I received the trial garments on December 26th. And the process is, when you receive the trial garments, you want to try them on, take some pictures, see if there are any adjustments that has to be made, and then you email them the pictures and take it from there. Now, as far as the trial jacket, it's really a basted jacket, so it's nowhere near a finished jacket. The point of the trial jacket is to try to determine the fit. So don't expect it to fit you exactly how the finished product is going to fit you. It's definitely nothing like that. It's very basic. It's very flimsy, if you will. But once again, that's to be expected because it's a basted jacket. It's not a real jacket. But at least you'll be able to gauge the shoulders, which is one of the most important part of a suit. You'll be able to gauge the buttoning point to see if whether or not it's too high or too low or too tight. So it's good as far as the fit, but it's not great as far as analyzing the style of the suit, because it's not going to look like the same style as the actual jacket that you ordered. So that's just something to keep in mind. So when people hear trial, they might be thinking, man, this is going to be like a finished suit. It's really not. And the trousers, the same way. One thing with the trousers that I was kind of disappointed in, and I have made that clear to them since I've received it, being that I wear suspenders, I always like to float my trousers, meaning that I don't have my trousers waist be tight around my waist. I like to float it because I'm going to be wearing suspenders. I'm not wearing a belt. And when they sent the trial trousers, they didn't include any suspender buttons. So it was very hard for me to gauge exactly if the length was correct, because it wouldn't stay around my waist. I have to keep pulling it up. You know, so that was one thing I feel like could be done better. I think I took the feedback well, and going forward, hopefully if somebody orders trousers with suspender buttons, when they receive the trial trousers, they will also have suspender buttons, so they can put on suspenders and really determine if the length is correct. And even though I like to float my trousers, it doesn't mean that I want them to be 2 sizes too big. So one feedback was for them to take the waist in a little bit. So when I received the trial jacket, a couple things that I noticed. Number one, the sleeves were a little too short, so I did make a note of that. The second thing that I noticed, there was a roll under the collar. The third thing that I noticed, the chest was collapsing a little bit. So I made all those notes and I sent it to them along with the pictures. And they did agree with me about the sleeves being a little bit too short. And they did also notice the roll under the collar. As far as the collapsing chest, they first asked me if the jacket was tight around the buttoning point, which it wasn't. And the second thing they asked me was to pull down on the front of the jacket and take another picture. And immediately after I did that, the jacket's chest no longer collapsed. So it was more a product of the basted jacket than an actual issue with the chest. So that was really good news. And that was pretty much it as far as the adjustments. I felt like the trial garments were actually pretty good. And then from that point, I received the jacket on January 29th. So altogether, it took about 2 months. I think they promised you get it in about 8 to 10 weeks. And I got mine in between 8 and 9 weeks. So that was a pretty good turnaround. Now, without further ado, I know I've been talking about it, but let's take a look at the suit. So this is the jacket right here. It's a light brown tweed, which is a beautiful fabric. The lapels measure about 4 inches. And that's one thing you don't get to choose on the website, but it's something that you can put in the notes. So I did tell them that usually I wear between a 4 and a 4.25, and I really do like the size of these lapels. I did go with jetted pockets. This is the first suit. Actually, no, I think this is my second suit with jetted pockets. Typically, I go with a flap or I go with patch pockets if it's more of a casual suit. I went with 4 buttons on the cuffs, and these are working buttonholes, as you can see here. And as I was saying, this is from Abraham Moon, as you can see here. And then it also says Collaro Classic Menswear on the inside. You have a pen pocket here, your interior breast pocket. And once again, I went with a quarter line, which is what you see here. And of course, we went double vents. And one thing I forgot to show you, as I was saying, I went with a 3-roll 2. So for those of you who aren't familiar, a 3-roll 2 acts like a 2-button jacket, but it's actually a 3-button jacket. The 3rd button is just hidden behind the lapel. So you're never really supposed to button that button. It's supposed to remain hidden. But one thing that does show is the buttonhole. So you will see the buttonhole here because, you know, even with the lapel roll, you'll still be able to see that there is a buttonhole here, but the button is not meant to be buttoned. Now let's talk about the trousers. We have the side tabs, went with the double forward pleats. If you're not familiar, reverse pleats open in the same direction as the pockets, and forward pleats open in the same direction as the fly. And as you can see, those pleats are going in the same direction as the fly. Now, one thing that I started to do recently is have my trousers be wider. So typically I used to go with an 8-inch cuff, but now I go with a 9-inch cuff. So this was the first one where I was trying that with. So this one is an 8.5. But going forward, I think 9 inches is where I want to settle. And the reason being, I feel like they're draped better. Not that the 8 inches were slim, but I just want the trousers to be a bit bigger without going to the extreme. And I feel like 9 inches is a really good compromise. But there is extra material in here, so I can definitely take it to my tailor to make it a bit wider, which is what I intend to do. Now let's first talk about the positives. Number 1, the suit fit really well. What I did was I took my best fitting suit and I uploaded those measurements into their website. The good thing is they sent you a video that shows you exactly how you're supposed to measure your existing garments. So that was pretty easy to do. And the suit came out really close, so I'm pretty happy with the results, especially considering this is the first one. When you're dealing with custom clothing, even if you're dealing with bespoke, you can't really expect for the first one to be perfect. So you always have to go in with the right expectations. So I wasn't expecting perfection, but it definitely turned out really, really well as far as the fit. Number 2, the fabric is great. I want to say the weight is between 13 and 14 ounces if I'm not mistaken. And this is a really nice fall and winter suit, man. The trousers are great, perfect rise, just the way that I like it. Now let me tell you what I didn't like. So when I tried the jacket on, I realized there was something off with it. At first, I couldn't really figure out what it was. And then it came to me. One thing that I don't like about the jacket is that the quarters aren't open enough. And when I'm talking about the quarters, I'm talking about the part that's under the buttoning point of the jacket. So the way that I like my jackets is even when the jacket is buttoned, you should be able to see my fly. And with this one, you do not, because it's shaped more like a Y than an X. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, so you can draw a straight line from my right shoulder to my left hip and from my left shoulder to my right hip. So it's like an X. Versus this one is more like a Y. So it goes like this and then it goes straight down. So you can't see my fly when the jacket is buttoned. So that's something that I wasn't too happy with because I couldn't really base that off the trowel suit. Because like I was saying, the trowel jacket, you can gauge things like the fit, but you can't really base the stylistic touch because it's not a finished garment, it's just a basted jacket. So I was under the impression that that's how it was going to come out. So we never really discussed that beforehand. I was just really going off of some of the pictures that I've seen of other suits that they're made for other people. And those all had the X aesthetic that I like. But unfortunately, mine came out looking more like a Y. So after I sent my feedback to them, one great thing that they did is they set up a virtual call and I was able to show them exactly what I was talking about. And we came to an understanding for the next one. They'll be rectifying the issues. So one thing that they're going to do, they're going to lower the buttoning point just a little bit. And they're also going to open up the quarters. But overall, I am happy with the suit, although I'm not happy with that part. But of course, I'm still going to wear it. The trousers I'm very happy with, like I was saying. They turned out great. great. I really love the rise. I just wish that the hem was a little bit larger. But as I was saying, that's something that my tailor should be able to take care of. So I'm definitely more happy with the trousers than I am with the jacket. And hopefully on the next commission, they'll be able to make the quarters open like I like. So do I recommend Collaro? Without a doubt. So one thing that I didn't do when I was placing my order, I didn't tell them, nor did I ask them about how their quarters are, you know, because I was just assuming that it's going to be open quarters. But that's something that I should have made clear to them from the beginning. So if you like me and you like for the quarters to be open, I would say when you're placing your orders, you want to make that clear to them, because even though it's custom, it's based on a predetermined pattern. There's only so much adjustment that they can make. So he was telling me, because of my shape, the quarters probably won't be as open as what I'm used to, but they definitely make it wider. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what the next one is going to look like. But that's a personal thing. There's really nothing wrong with the jacket. It's just that me personally, I like for the quarters to be open as opposed to closed. And they did a really good job, man. So I'm definitely going to work with them again, and I'll be reporting back on my next commission. I'm thinking probably something for season, or even maybe something for the spring and summer, like a fresco or something lighter like that, you know what I mean? So if you have any questions about Collaro, make sure you put them in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'm already looking forward to my next commission with them, and I'll be reporting back. Wrist check, I'm wearing my very special Seiko Sub 035. And the reason why it's very special, this was my first real watch that I got, I want to say, back in 2016. Another part that makes it very special is that Seiko did discontinue it, so you can't really find it anymore. Well, you probably can, but if you do find it, it's probably going to cost you more than $2,000. About a year ago, that was the last price I saw, so I'm sure it's probably more than that now. When I bought mine, I think I paid around $400 for it. It was going for a little bit more than that, but they were always on sale, so I got mine from Amazon. It was like $4 and change, you know what I mean? So this is a very special watch. Not my most expensive watch by any stretch, but definitely one of my favorites. The band is a nubuck band, dark brown nubuck, and that's from my own line, the Chase and Rider straps. And the link is in the description if you want to get yours. So hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe, or everybody gonna think that you're a hater. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.